There are 4 cases in the German language, but none is more hated by German learners than the dative case. I have made many videos about the dative case in my years on YouTube. This video that you're currently watching is a compilation of 5 videos about the various parts of the dative case. This includes indirect objects, dative pronouns, dative prepositions, dative phrases, and two-way prepositions. All of these lessons come with extra materials, including worksheets with answer keys and MP3 versions of the lessons. You can get all of that and more with my Everything Dative bundle on my website germanwithantrim.com. I've linked that in the description. This video is not meant to be watched all at once. There is a ton of information in this video, so please make sure to take breaks and let your brain absorb the information before moving on to the next part. All of the lessons contained within this video are a part of my A2 Elementary German course. The course textbook is available on my website germanwithantrim.com or on Amazon as an ebook or paperback book. The book reinforces the lessons that are taught in the video version, which is available completely for free on YouTube. You can watch the course videos in 3 formats. The first way is the way that I intended it to be consumed, which is a mixture of grammar lessons and listening comprehension exercises. The other 2 options split the grammar lessons into one video and the listening comprehension exercises into another. All of those videos, along with the links to the course book, are linked in the description.
Wait, feminine nouns use the article der? What is dame? And why is there an N at the end of the word Kinder? That's dative. It's like nominative and accusative on steroids. The dative case is used with indirect objects, dative prepositions, dative verbs, and certain phrases. Sounds complicated. Lots of people think that, but it doesn't have to be. Over the next several lessons, I will teach you all of the things that you need to know about the dative case. Today, we will tackle the dative case as it's used with indirect objects. This includes definite and indefinite articles, der words and ein words. Alright, get on with it. I'll let you know if you were successful at the end. Der Mann gibt deiner Mutter Blumen. The man gives your mother flowers. Danke. Der Mann gibt deiner Mutter eine Halskette. The man gives your mother a necklace. Danke. Der Mann gibt deiner Mutter einen Kuss. The man gives your mother a kiss. Dein Vater verpasst dem Mann ein blaues Auge. Your father gives the man a black eye. In the first 3 examples, your mom is the indirect object. Your mom's an indirect object. Got him. What's an indirect object? So, if you don't already know, the nominative case is used for the subject of the sentence. That's the person or thing that is doing something in the sentence. This is also the person or thing that decides how the verb needs to be conjugated. The accusative case is used with direct objects. These are the things or people that are being acted upon by the subject of the sentence. If you buy something, that something is the direct object, and in German, that's accusative. If the direct object goes in the direction of someone or something, that someone or something is an indirect object. The indirect object receives the direct object. The indirect object in German uses the dative case. You have probably seen a chart that looks something like this before. What I consider to be the baseline for all cases is the nominative case. Words for the are called definite articles. The only change between nominative and accusative articles occurs with the masculine nouns. Der becomes den. When we get to the dative case, everything changes. Die becomes der. Der and das become dem, and the plural die becomes den. So, feminine is now masculine, and masculine and neuter have merged into one supergender, and the plural has become the masculine accusative? No, that's not at all what's going on here. The genders of nouns, while represented by the articles, are not the articles themselves. The gender of the noun is determined by the noun itself. The article that is put in front of that noun is determined by the gender and the way in which it is used. Don't think der means that it's masculine, but rather that masculine nouns, when used as the subject of the sentence, are represented with the word der. When the same noun is used in the accusative case, it is represented by den. When it's used as the indirect object, it is represented with dem. Trust me, this is a lot easier than trying to get your brain to handle something like the convoluted way that you're trying to do that gender bender thing, whatever that was. Let's try an example to start this off. We'll use the word der Mann to keep things simple. Again, I don't mean der Mann to say that it's always der, but that this is the starting point for the way that the articles change from here on out with the word Mann. Der Mann geht ins Lebensmittelgeschäft. The man goes into the grocery store. The man is the one doing something in that sentence, which makes him the subject and therefore nominative. That's why we used der. Dein Vater schlägt den Mann. Your father hits the man. Your father is the one doing something in the sentence, which makes him the subject and therefore nominative. The man is now on the receiving end of the action, i.e. the verb schlagen, to hit. In other words, the man is being hit. This makes him the direct object and therefore accusative. That's why we used den. Dein Vater verpasst dem Mann ein blaues Auge. Your father gives the man a black eye. Your father is still the subject as he's the one doing something. The action, however, is transferred to ein blaues Auge, a black eye. This makes the eye the direct object and therefore accusative. The one receiving the direct object is the man. This means he is indirectly being acted upon by your father through the direct object. This is why we call it an indirect object, and it takes the dative case. Now, throughout all of those examples, we had the same noun, Mann. It went from der in the first one to den and then dem. The gender of the noun did not change. The article preceding it did. Can all sentences have an indirect object? No, not all verbs have the ability to take indirect objects. This is due to the action that the verb expresses. Obviously, you can buy or sell someone something, give them it, or sell them it, but you can't be them something or go them something. Cool. I think I have it, but just in case, can I see a few more examples? Hopefully with a little bit more variety than what you've done so far? Herr Antrim bringt dem Doktor Deutsch bei. Herr Antrim is teaching the doctor German. The word for timey-wimey stuff in German is schnibbidi-schnick wibblig-wabbliges Zeugs. Bet you can't say that 3 times fast. Schnibbidi-schnick wibblig-wabbliges Zeugs. Schnibbidi-schnick wibblig-wabbliges Zeugs. Schnibbidi-schnick wibblig-wabbliges Zeugs. I figured you'd be more of a Matt Smith kind of guy, what with the bow ties and such. Stylistically speaking, I like Matt Smith's doctor because, bow ties are cool. But acting and story-wise, I prefer David Tennant. Herr Antrim erzählt der Prinzessin ein Märchen. Herr Antrim tells the princess a fairy tale. Und wenn sie nicht gestorben sind, dann leben sie noch heute. Der Makler zeigt der Kundin das Haus. The realtor shows the customer the house. Das ist das Wohnzimmer. Der Kellner bringt dem Mädchen ein Eis. The waiter brings the girl an ice cream. Der Lehrer stellt dem Schüler eine Frage. The teacher asks the student a question. Wo ist dein Buch? Why didn't you just use the verb fragen in that sentence? Dem Schüler eine Frage fragen? Das ist ein bisschen doppelt gemoppelt. That's a bit redundant. Die Lehrerin gibt den Schülern eine Hausarbeit auf. The teacher assigns the students a term paper. Halt, stop! Where did the N at the end of Schüler come from? The word Schüler is already plural. You don't have to double pluralize it, do you? No, the N at the end there is indicating that it's plural dative. Most of the time this will happen with plural nouns in the dative case. If the noun already ends with N or an S in the plural form, then you don't add an N to the end of it with the dative case. Meine Schwester sagt dem Polizisten die Wahrheit. My sister tells the police officer the truth. Wait, why did Polizist suddenly get 2 extra letters? I understand that the plural of Polizist is Polizisten, but you just said dem Polizisten, which means it's masculine and not plural. So what's up with that? Have you heard of weak nouns before? These are certain nouns that simply take N or EN when they're used in any case that is not nominative. Polizist is on that list. If you want a better list of them, I have that built into my Accusative, Dative, and Genitive Case masterclasses, which you can find linked in the description. For a few more examples, however, here are a few more popular ones. Der Neffe, Neffin. Der Held, Helden. Der Herr, Herren. Der Name, Namen. And a bunch more. Are they all masculine? Yep. Well, at least that part's simple. I get the der words now. What happens with the ein words? The dative case is the first case that you learn about that uses the same endings for all of the definite and indefinite articles. By that I mean that the masculine and neuter ones end in M. Feminine is now R, and plural is an N. Der Richter schickt einer Zeugin eine Vorladung. The judge sends a witness a subpoena. Der Experte kocht einem Spion ein Ei. The expert cooks or is cooking a spy an egg. Laura leiht meinem Vater den Hut. Laura loans my father the hat. Meine Kinder erzählen einem Mädchen Witze. My children tell a girl jokes. Sophia schreibt ihren Großeltern Briefe. Sophia writes her grandparents letters. Liebe Großmutter. I think I'm starting to get the hang of this. Is there anything else that I should know? Just a quick reminder, don't forget that there are other words that act like definite articles. By that I mean they use the same endings, like dieser, jeder, and welcher. For example, meine Mutter gibt jedem Kind ein Stück Schokolade. My mother gives every child a piece of chocolate. Der Mann verkauft dieser Frau eine Halskette. The man is selling this woman a necklace. Eine schöne Halskette für eine schöne Dame. Also, the possessive articles, such as mine, dein, and so on, those use the same endings as the indefinite articles, and the negative word kein follows the same pattern. For example, mein Bruder kauft unserem Vater einen Golfschläger. My brother is buying our father a golf club. Seine Freundin schenkt ihr Tochter ein Fahrrad. His girlfriend is giving her daughter a bicycle. Great! I think I'm good for today. That was surprisingly painless.
If you're enjoying this video so far, you will love my A2 Elementary German course. This course is designed to help you master the German grammar and vocabulary at the A2 level of the German language. Check out the links in the description to find it, or just search for Elementary German with Herr Antrim wherever you do your searching.
Dative pronouns in German are super easy. Once you get to know how to use the dative case with indirect objects, using personal pronouns in the dative case with indirect objects is a breeze. Yeah, sure. I'll be the judge of that. For once, Herr Lehrer might actually be right. Today's lesson will expand upon that by showing you the personal pronouns that you need to use in the dative case. In case you don't know, the pronouns that you see in conjugation charts like this one are called nominative personal pronouns, or subject pronouns. That's because they are used as the subject of the sentence. Just as the nominative case definite articles were used as the baseline for all definite articles in other cases, we'll be using this list of pronouns to start talking about dative case pronouns. When you use a pronoun as an indirect object, you need to use one of the dative pronouns. The one that you choose depends on the noun that you are replacing. For instance, Ich kaufe meinem Vater einen Golfschläger. I am buying my father a golf club. Ich kaufe ihm einen Golfschläger. I am buying him a golf club. I use the masculine pronoun in the dative case, ihm, when I replace the indirect object, meinem Vater. If the noun being replaced is a feminine noun, we use ihr. If it is neuter, we use ihm, and when it's plural, we use ihnen. For example, Er gibt seiner Schwester eine Blume. He gives his sister a flower. Er gibt ihr eine Blume. He gives her a flower. Erzählen Sie dem Mädchen eine Geschichte? Are you telling the girl a story? Erzählen Sie ihm eine Geschichte? Are you telling her a story? Wir schenken unseren Kindern Kleidung. We are giving our children clothing as a gift. Wir schenken ihnen Kleidung. We are giving them clothing as a gift. The cool thing about these pronouns is that they always match the last letter of the article. Since the dative articles have the same endings for definite and indefinite articles, you can always count on the dative article telling you the correct pronoun for the situation. Notice that when I said meinem Vater, I replaced it with ihm, seiner Schwester with ihr, dem Mädchen with ihm, and unseren Kindern with ihnen. Obviously, you won't always be able to use the third-person pronouns for the indirect object. Occasionally, you will need a second-person, you, or a first-person, I or we, pronoun instead. In those instances, you need to remember which pronouns mean what. The dative me form is mir. The dative version of du, the you singular, is dir. And when ihr, the you plural, is dative, it becomes euch. Gib mir den Dinosaurier! Give me the dinosaur! Ich gebe dir den Dinosaurier nicht. Der ist mein Dinosaurier. I'm not giving you the dinosaur. It's my dinosaur. Gib ihm den Dinosaurier. Give him the dinosaur. Nein, hat schon einen Dinosaurier. No, he's already got a dinosaur. Dann nehme ich euch die Dinos weg. Then I will take the dinosaurs away from you. Now that you know what the personal pronouns are in the dative case, you can make a chart like this one if you're one of those students who likes charts. Ich becomes mich in the accusative and mir in the dative. Du becomes dich in the accusative and dir in the dative. Becomes ihn in the accusative and ihm in the dative. Sie stays sie in the accusative but becomes ihr in the dative. Es remains es in the accusative but becomes ihm in the dative. Wir becomes uns in both accusative and dative. Ihr becomes euch in both accusative and dative. The two z's at the bottom of the chart, both they and you, stay z in the accusative case, but they both become ihnen in the dative case. Don't forget to capitalize ihnen when it's being used as the formal you. Now that you know what the pronouns are in the three cases, you can follow the pronouns in the examples as I switch between nominative, accusative, and dative. Ich bin Herr Antrim. Du kannst mich Herr Antrim nennen, bis du mir einen besseren Spitznamen gibst. I am Herr Antrim. You can call me Herr Antrim until you give me a better nickname. Du bist schön. Ich mag dich. Darf ich dir einen Kaffee kaufen? You are beautiful. I like you. Can I buy you a coffee? Das habe ich schon. Heißt Tim. Meine Großmutter hat ihn gebastelt. Sie hat ihm auch diese Kleidung gebastelt. He is called Tim. My grandmother made him. She also made him these clothes. Barbie hat heute Geburtstag. Ich habe sie heute vor 3 Jahren gekauft. Heute schenke ich ihr ein neues Kleid. Barbie has a birthday today. I bought her 3 years ago today. Today I am giving her a new dress. Das ist mein Pferdchen. Ich führe es in den Pferdestall. Ich gebe ihm Heu. This is my little horse. I lead it into the horse stable. Then I give it hay. Wir sind Dinosaurier. Ein Meteorit hat uns getötet. Menschen haben uns viele Museen gebaut. We are dinosaurs. A meteorite killed us. People built us many museums. Ihr möchtet Deutsch lernen. Ich kenne euch. Deshalb mache ich euch ein paar YouTube-Videos. You would like to learn German. I know you. Therefore, I make you a few YouTube videos. Sie sitzen auf dem Sofa. Der Mann im Fernsehen unterhaltet sie. Ich koche Ihnen Suppe zum Abendessen. They are sitting on the sofa. The man on TV is entertaining them. I am cooking them soup for dinner.
If you're enjoying this video so far, you will love my A2 Elementary German course. This course is designed to help you master the German grammar and vocabulary at the A2 level of the German language. Check out the links in the description to find it, or just search for Elementary German with Herr Antrim wherever you do your searching.
Hallo Deutschlerner! In this video, I will explain pretty much every dative verb you will ever come across. These are German verbs that for some reason or another require a dative object. Similar to the dative phrases that I talked about a couple weeks ago, these verbs ignore normal logic for choosing the object case, and instead of the accusative, they use the dative. I'll start with a brief overview of why most of these verbs use the dative case with their objects instead of the accusative case, and then I'll explain some examples of each of these dative verbs. Normally, when a verb has a direct object, that object is used with the accusative case. When the direct object is directed towards another object, that second object is called the indirect object and uses the dative case. Most of the time, the indirect object will be a person. This leads us to the dative verbs. A lot of the time, these verbs sort of imply the direct object. This is done because the verb takes the place of the direct object. It shows that the thing given is the noun version of the verb. For example, this happens with verbs like antworten, to answer. When you answer someone, you are giving them an answer. This makes them the indirect object of the sentence and therefore dative. Er gibt mir die Antwort. He gives me the answer. Er antwortet mir. He answers me. With the verb helfen, you are giving someone help. Again, the person is then used in the dative case. Ich gebe meinem Vater Hilfe. I am giving my father help. Ich helfe meinem Vater. I am helping my father. Keep in mind that the versions of the sentences I just gave using the verb geben are not considered the standard way to express what we are saying. I'm simply showing you these versions so you see how the direct object was dissolved into the verb. It's grammatically correct to use either version, but the versions using the verb helfen or antworten are definitely more popular. This logic helps to explain some of the most annoying dative verbs for English speakers, such as gefallen, to like. Take a look at this example. Diese Schuhe gefallen mir. I like these shoes. The number one complaint about this verb is that the subject and the object are opposites between the two languages. If you use the thought process that I've outlined so far, however, you can see that the dative verb gefallen actually means that the subject gives the indirect object pleasure. Diese Schuhe geben mir Freude. These shoes give me joy. Diese Schuhe gefallen mir. These shoes are pleasing to me. I like these shoes. While this kind of logic works for quite a few dative verbs, you will have a problem stretching this kind of logic to work with other dative verbs. Ähneln, to resemble, for example, doesn't follow this logic. You can't give someone resemblance, and even if you could, it would be used in the opposite direction of what the German verb means. You might be better off rewording things to say, he casts a resemblance to someone. This logic makes sense for verbs like ähneln. Ähneln, to resemble. Herr Antrim ähnelt seinem Vater sehr. Mr. Antrim really resembles his father. There are a few other odd ones that don't really fit any logical category that I've explained so far. This would include verbs like begegnen, to meet someone by chance. This verb is confusing on a few levels. First of all, it uses sein in the perfect tense, which shows you that the verb is more closely related to the English phrase to bump into someone. Secondly, if you watch my video about the perfect, link over here if you want to see that, or in the description, you would know that the verbs with direct objects don't use sein in the perfect. This actually explains why we need the dative case here. It isn't that you are meeting them, that would be treffen. You are going somewhere, and you happen upon them. You meet to them, therefore dative. Begegnen, to meet someone by chance. Der Dieb ist dem Polizist schon einmal begegnet. The thief met the police officer before. Now that we have the general idea out of the way, we can get to some examples. This video does not include all of the dative verbs in the entire German language, but it does include a very large number of them. Some would say the largest number of them. It's huge, tremendous, bigly number of verbs you've never seen before. So big. Believe me, it's true. Antworten, to answer. Seine Frau antwortet ihm nicht. His wife doesn't answer him. Auffallen, to stand out, to make an impression. Der Hundedreck auf seinem Fuß ist ihm nicht aufgefallen. He didn't notice the dog poo on his shoe. Ausweichen, to evade. Der Präsident ist allen Fragen ausgewichen. The president evaded all of the questions. Befehlen, to order or command. Der Lehrer befiehlt dem Schüler, seine Aufgabe zu machen. The teacher commands the student to do his work. Beistehen, to stand by or support. Seine Mutter steht ihm in schwierigen Zeiten bei. His mother stands by him in difficult times. Danken, to thank. Der Kunde dankt dem Kellner. The customer thanks the waiter. Dienen, to serve. Dieser Brief dient Ihnen als letzte Warnung. This letter serves as your last warning. Drohen, to threaten. Der Räuber droht dem Bankkassierer mit einem Messer. The robber threatens the bank teller with a knife. Einfallen, to come to mind, to think of something. Mir fällt gerade ein, dass wir einkaufen müssen. It just came to me that we have to go shopping. Entgegnen, to reply, retort, or counter. Ich möchte Ihnen entgegnen, dass Sie eigentlich nicht recht haben. I would like to counter you that you aren't actually correct. Erlauben, to allow or permit. Wir erlauben unseren Kindern, die ganze Nacht aufzubleiben. We allow our children to stay up the entire night. Erscheinen, to appear. Deine Mutter erscheint mir ganz nett. Your mother appears to be very nice to me. Fehlen, to be missing. Mir fehlen die Worte, meine Liebe für meine Frau zu beschreiben. Words fail me to describe my love for my wife. Folgen, to follow. Der Hund folgt der Katze. The dog follows the cat. Gehorchen, to obey. Das Kind gehorcht seinen Eltern. The child obeys his parents. Gehören, to belong to. Dieser Hut gehört mir. This hat belongs to me. Gelingen, to succeed. Es gelang meinem Bruder, eine neue Arbeitsstelle zu bekommen. My brother was successful in finding a new job. Genügen, to suffice, to be enough. Nur eine Kugel Eis genügt mir nicht. Only one scoop of ice cream is not enough for me. Geschehen, to happen or occur. Was ist dem Mann geschehen, nachdem den Kuchen gegessen hat? What happened to the man after he ate the cake? Glauben, to believe. Du musst mir glauben, bitte glaub mir. You have to believe me, please believe me. Gleichen, to closely resemble. Seine neue Freundin gleicht seiner alten. His new girlfriend closely resembles his old one. Glücken, to succeed, to work out. Der Plan ist ihm geglückt. The plan succeeded for him. Gratulieren, to congratulate. Ihre Mutter gratuliert ihr zum Geburtstag. Her mother congratulates her for her birthday. Helfen, to help. Wie kann ich Ihnen helfen? How can I help you? Lauschen, to eavesdrop or listen in. Das Kind lauscht seinen Eltern, während sie streiten. The child eavesdrops on his parents as they argue or fight. Munden, to taste good. Ich hoffe, dass diese Suppe Ihnen mundet. I hope that this soup tastes good to you. Passen, to fit. Mein neuer Hut passt mir nicht. My new hat doesn't fit me. Passieren, to happen. Was ist denn dir passiert? What happened to you? Raten, to advise. Der Lehrer hat seinen Schülern dazu geraten, ihre Arbeit fristgerecht zu erledigen. The teacher advised his students to do their work on time. Schaden, to damage, to do harm. Fleißige Arbeit schadet niemandem. Hard work doesn't hurt anyone. Schmecken, to taste good. Du hast den Fisch nicht gegessen. Schmeckt der dir nicht? You didn't eat the fish. Doesn't it taste good to you? Schmeicheln, to flatter. Dieses Kleid schmeichelt deiner Mutter nicht. This dress does not flatter your mother. Sich nähern, to approach, to draw near to. Der Räuber nähert sich der Bank. The robber approaches the bank. A quick side note here. This one may not seem like a traditional dative verb as it also includes a reflexive pronoun. Some would say that the reflexive pronoun is simply taking the accusative spot while the other object takes the dative case. This logic doesn't quite fit, however. When a reflexive pronoun is used with another object, the object is accusative and the reflexive pronoun is dative. You can't simply switch this because you feel like it. This is not being switched here. The reflexive pronoun and the dative object are working together but separate. When you use neon with a reflexive, it means that the person or thing is moving towards another person or thing on their own accord. The robber in that sentence is moving himself forward. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, dative verbs often show that the verb is being directed at a person or thing. That is what's going on here. It's the reason that this verb is considered a dative verb even though it's got an accusative object. Trauen, to trust. Dr. House traut seinem Patienten nicht. Dr. House doesn't trust his patient. Vertrauen, to trust, to confide in, to rely on. Ich vertraue ihm nicht. I don't trust him. Weichen, to yield, to make way for. Die Autos weichen dem Rettungswagen. The cars make way for the ambulance. Widersprechen, to contradict or gainsay. Dem Chef wird niemandem widersprechen. No one will contradict the boss. Winken, to wave. Herr Antrim winkt euch zum Abschied. Herr Antrim waves goodbye to you.
If you're enjoying this video so far, you will love my A2 Elementary German course. This course is designed to help you master the German grammar and vocabulary at the A2 level of the German language. Check out the links in the description to find it, or just search for Elementary German with Herr Antrim wherever you do your searching.
Today we're focusing on the prepositions that always require the dative case, conveniently called dative prepositions. Those are the prepositions that are always used with the dative case. If you need a way to remember them, simply sing in alphabetical order to the tune of An der schönen blauen Donau. Aus Hause bei mit, nach Seit von zu. Aus Hause bei mit, nach Seit von zu. Aus Hause bei mit, nach Seit von zu. Now I'll explain what they all mean and how you can use them each. Aus means out of or from. It's used to show that something was in something else and is now no longer. This is different than von, which also means from and is also on our list for today, but I'll explain that in a bit. For now, I'll show you a few examples of how to use aus. Ich komme aus den USA. I am from the United States. I come from the USA. I was once in the United States. That's my place of origin. Now I'm expressing that I came out of that place with the preposition aus. And you can't say this while being in the United States because then you would say Ich bin von hier, I am from here, as you're currently still there. No exit had ever occurred. Meine Oma holt mir Schokolade aus der Schublade. My grandma gets me chocolate from the drawer. The chocolate was in the drawer and now it's outside, therefore we used aus. Wir fahren heute aus der Stadt. We are driving out of town today. We are currently in the city and will be going away from there. Therefore, we used aus. Wann kommst du aus der Schule? When do you get out of school? We were in school. We're asking when you're going to leave, so we use aus. Von can also be translated as from, but unlike aus, it is not used for things that were once inside of something else, but rather that it's just in a different place than before. It is from there. Von points in the direction where something was. Zu is the opposite and points in the direction where something will be. Ich komme vom Bäcker. I am coming from the bakery. Von points in the direction of the bakery from where ich is coming. Also, it's important to note that vom is a sort of contraction of von and dem, which means if you're trying to use an adjective after that, you need to use the ones that are normally behind definite articles. Ich gehe zum Bäcker. I am going to the bakery. Zu points in the direction to where ich is going. Notice again that we have a contraction, this time with zu and dem in this sentence. Morgen soll ich einen Brief von meiner Brieffreundin bekommen. I am supposed to get a letter from my pen pal tomorrow. If I use aus in this sentence instead of von, it would mean that the letter was once inside of your pen pal. Morgen soll ich einen Brief aus meiner Brieffreundin bekommen. Since that's not what we mean, we use von. Wir fahren von unserem Haus zu deinem Haus. We are driving from our house to your house. This sentence is a bit more difficult for some to understand why we used von instead of aus. The simplest way that I explain it is that you went from inside the house to outside the house, but you weren't driving then. The part explained by this sentence is the driving from outside of one house to the outside of another. This means that you can use both in the same sentence, both aus and von, to give a bit more depth to the sentence. Wir gehen aus dem Haus und fahren von unserem Haus zu deinem Haus. We are walking out of the house and driving from our house to your house. Geben Sie mir bitte ein Stück von dem Kuchen. Give me a piece from the cake, please. Or, give me a piece of the cake, please. This sentence is actually a good transition example from the translation from to the other translation of von, of. It could be translated as a piece from the cake or a piece of the cake. That's because the word von sometimes carries with it the idea of being part of a whole, and it can also be used to show possession. This again goes back to the fact that it points where something was. It is from that or of that. For example, die folgenden Sätze sind Beispiele von dem deutschen Wort von. The following sentences are examples of the German word von. Herr Antrim erzählt von einem Drachen mit roten Flügeln. Herr Antrim tells of a dragon with red wings. There are also a plethora of phrases in German which use the preposition von. In those sentences, the translation varies between the two options that I've given you so far. This is when it's most helpful to use the definition that I first saw on the German is Easy blog at yourdailygerman.com. Von shows a point of origin without expressing any form of exiting. I like this definition as it shows a more precise definition that doesn't leave any ambiguity. Außer translates as except or besides. I sometimes use the translation in addition to. It isn't nearly as common as aus or von, but it is a dative preposition, so here it is in some examples. Außer meinem Vater kommt auch noch meine Mutter zum Spiel. Besides, or in addition to my father, my mother is also coming to the game. Ich esse mein ganzes Mittagessen außer diesem Spargel. I am eating my entire lunch except this asparagus. Bei is a bit difficult for some German learners as it translates as a bunch of different words that already have prepositions assigned to them. Some translate it as with, but mit exists. Some translate it as near, but the word nah also exists. I generally translate it as at, but that has a bunch of issues as well. The bottom line is that bei shows a static location. You can use it with stores, work, people's houses, as long as it's not your own, and parties, just to name a few. Here are a few examples so you get the idea. Ich kaufe Lebensmittel bei Aldi. I am buying groceries at Aldi. Let's get something straight real quick. It is not Aldi's. Aldi is not a dude's name, unlike Kohl's or McDonald's and other stores and restaurants and companies that were derived from people's names. Aldi is short for Albrecht, the family name, Discount, the word for discount. The family's last name is not Discount, so please, for the love of God, stop saying Aldi's. End rant. Es gibt heute Abend eine Party bei meinem Freund Paul. There is a party at my friend Paul's house this evening. Mein Bruder ist gerade bei der Arbeit und kann nicht ans Handy gehen. My brother is currently at work and can't come to the phone. You can also use bei with online places and sources of information. For example, mein Vater bekommt all seine Nachrichten bei Fox News. My father gets all his news on or at or from Fox News. Herr Antrim hat eine Fanseite bei Facebook. Herr Antrim has a fan page on Facebook. Mit is an easy one. It means with and is used exactly the same as the English. As I mentioned before, the most difficult part of this preposition is deciding when to use bei and when to use mit when you mean with in English. The easy answer is that mit does not describe a location, but rather a connection, whereas bei will always show a location. Ich wohne mit meinem Bruder. I live with my brother. I live in the same place as my brother. Ich wohne bei meinem Bruder. I live with my brother. I live at my brother's house. The sentence with mit indicates that both are equal, i.e. the home belongs to both. The other sentence indicates that the brother is either a tenant or owns the house and he sets the rules. Ist fertig mit seiner Arbeit. He is finished with his work. Ist bei der Arbeit. He is at work. Wir spielen Schach mit unseren Kindern. We play chess with our children. Wir spielen Schach bei unseren Kindern. We play chess at our children's house. Zu can also mean at. The only instance when this translates as at, however, is zu Hause, at home. Ich bin die nächsten 2 Wochen zu Hause. I am at home for the next 2 weeks. In all other instances, the translation of zu is to. Generally speaking, this is used to express going in the direction of something. There are other prepositions that do this, however, so it's important to remember that when you use zu, you use it when you would place von when leaving. If you use the preposition in when you entered, you would use aus when you exit. Ich fahre zur Bank. I am driving to the bank. Ich komme von der Bank zurück nach Hause. I am coming home from the bank. Mein Bruder geht zu einem Freund. My brother is going to a friend's house. Mein Bruder kommt bald von seinem Freund nach Hause. My brother will soon come home from his friend's house. Nach can also mean to. It's used with cities, villages, states, countries, and directions on a compass, and as you just saw, nach Hause means going in the direction of your own home. Im Sommer möchte ich nach Heidelberg fliegen. In the summer, I would like to fly to Heidelberg. Meine Eltern fahren nach Deutschland. My parents are driving to Germany. Gehen Sie nach Norden, bis Sie das Restaurant finden. Go north until you find the restaurant. You can also use nach to express after, as in with time or an event. Nach 3 Uhr arbeite ich nicht mehr. After 3 o'clock, I don't work anymore. Nach dem Film gehen wir essen. After the film, we are going out to eat. Seit is very similar, but translates as since. The main difference is that nach indicates that some event occurred after another, but seit indicates that whatever the second action is, continued for some time after that. Seit meiner Geburt heiße ich Herr Antrim. Since my birth, I have been called Herr Antrim. Seit dem Film schlafen die Kinder. The children have been sleeping since the film. Seit den 90ern gibt es keine gute Musik mehr. There hasn't been any good music since the 90s.
If you're enjoying this video so far, you will love my A2 Elementary German course. This course is designed to help you master the German grammar and vocabulary at the A2 level of the German language. Check out the links in the description to find it, or just search for Elementary German with Herr Antrim wherever you do your searching.
Mir ist kalt. I am cold. Why is that dative? Ist dir nicht wohl? Are you not well? Don't you feel well? Why is that dative? Es tut mir leid. I'm sorry. What is going on here? Why are all of these sentences used with the dative case? There are a number of German phrases that use the dative case but aren't immediately obvious as to why that is. Today we'll be exploring some of these dative phrases and I'll explain why they use the dative case. Let's start with some pretty common examples of these so-called dative phrases that use temperatures. This could be any of the following: kalt, kühl, warm, or heiß. When you mean to say that the temperature is one of these adjectives in German in relation to a person, you use this with the dative object. Dem Mann ist heiß. The man is hot. It is hot to the man. Ihr ist warm. She is warm. It is warm to her. Ihm ist kühl. He is cool. It is cool to him. Uns ist kalt. We are cold. It is cold to us. That's all well and good, but why is it dative? To understand this, we have to expand our understanding of the dative case. The dative case is usually explained as the indirect object case, which is normally true, but it's also a dumping ground for leftovers of grammatical nuance. Really, it's the only case that we can use in these sentences that expresses what we want to say. If we use the nominative case here, we have a whole slew of problems. Der Mann ist heiß. The man is hot. Saying this with the nominative case indicates that the man is hot, as in sexy. While this may be true, it's not what we're trying to express in this video, so the nominative case is out. Let's try it with the accusative case. Den Mann ist heiß. The man is hot. This is simply nonsense. It doesn't work. The accusative case is reserved for a very specific kind of object, which requires a subject that is acting upon that object using a verb that has a direct action being performed on the accusative object. This again is not what we are trying to express. The only case left is the genitive case, which is used with possession when it isn't being forced by a preposition or a verb. That's out because we clearly don't have possession here. This just leaves us with the dative case. When we defined an indefinite article, we said that it was to whom or for whom something is done. This sentence fits that criteria. Es ist dem Mann heiß. It is hot to the man. This sentence is a longer, overly grammatical version of dem Mann ist heiß. It doesn't use the word es in a normal conversation, and the man has been put in the place where the subject, es, normally would have been. This brings us to the point that we can figure out what is going on in all of these sentences that require the dative case but don't seem to have any logic as to why. Every one of these sentences are going to describe an attribute of something, but not the person involved. It is an attribute that affects the person, but is not their own attribute. Since the nominative case would indicate that this description applies to the subject, this often leads to the meaning of the sentence not being what you had intended, such as in the previous example, der Mann ist heiß, the man is hot or sexy. The other temperatures also have issues like this. Meine Mutter ist kalt. My mother is cold. This means she is emotionally aloof. She may be callous. The other option is that she is literally physically cold, meaning her body temperature has dropped, which generally means that she's dead. It's for this reason that you can use the phrase jemanden kalt machen as a euphemism for killing someone. Wenn ich Jimmy wiedersehe, mache ich ihn kalt. When I see Jimmy again, I'ma kill him. When you say warm with the nominative case, you might get a strange look. Ich bin warm. I'm gay. At best, people will simply understand that you don't know what you're saying and chalk it up to a language learning error. At worst, people might think that you're gay. While that's not the worst language learning error that you could make, it isn't what we're trying to say here. Quick side note here, using the word warm to describe homosexuals is really outdated. Almost no one uses this anymore. Even when it was used, the phrase ich bin warm, I'm gay, wasn't nearly as widely used as the phrase ich bin ein warmer Mann, I am a gay man. And it was considered derogatory even back then. And for those of you who are thinking it would be funny to use this to call your friends gay, gay is not an insult. Long story short, don't say it, don't use it, use the dative instead. Mir ist warm. I am warm. Ihm ist warm. He is warm. Der Frau ist warm. The woman is warm. Dieses Buch ist den Schülern nicht besonders interessant. This book is not particularly interesting to the students. It isn't that the students are interesting or that they are this book. The book isn't objectively uninteresting, it is only uninteresting in relation to the students. Therefore, we have to use the dative case. Der Pickel ist dem Jungen sehr peinlich. The pimple is very embarrassing to the boy. The pimple can't be embarrassed. The boy can be, but he isn't the one that is embarrassing. It is the pimple that is embarrassing. But again, it isn't embarrassing to everyone objectively, it is only embarrassing in relation to the boy, so we use the dative case. Ihm ist dieses Restaurant völlig unbekannt. This restaurant is completely unknown to him. He doesn't know this restaurant at all. Obviously, the restaurant isn't completely unknown. If it were, it would be out of business. It is only completely unknown in relation to him, so we use the dative case. Hopefully by now you get the idea, but you might still have some questions about what other kinds of sentences you can use this with. So here are some more examples. Die Patienten sind dem Arzt sehr dankbar. The patients are very thankful to the doctor. Die Matheaufgaben sind mir leicht. The math assignments are easy to me. Die Wahrheit ist dem Richter wichtig. The truth is important to the judge. Fliegen ist mir unmöglich. Flying is impossible to me. Mein neuer Bürostuhl ist mir so bequem. My new office chair is so comfortable to me. Jetzt reicht's euch wahrscheinlich für heute. That's probably enough for you today.
If you're enjoying this video so far, you will love my A2 Elementary German course. This course is designed to help you master the German grammar and vocabulary at the A2 level of the German language. Check out the links in the description to find it, or just search for Elementary German with Herr Antrim wherever you do your searching.
Herr Lehrer, how do I know if a two-way preposition uses accusative or dative? Simple. If the prepositional phrase indicates motion, you use accusative. If not, use dative. So, for example, ich bin auf den Gehweg gelaufen means I walked on the sidewalk. The verb laufen is a motion verb, as you taught us, which means there is motion in the sentence, so we use the accusative case. Right, Herr Lehrer? No, you mean to say, ich bin auf dem Gehweg gelaufen. But the perfect uses sein when there is motion, so I use sein, and the accusative case is used with the two-way prepositions when there is motion, so I used accusative. What you said is that you walked from the street or somewhere else onto the sidewalk. Okay, but schwimmen is motion, so I say, ich bin in das Schwimmbecken geschwommen. No, ich bin im Schwimmbecken geschwommen. Okay, this is really confusing. Maybe the problem is the motion verb. Let's try this with a non-motion verb. Ich habe mich an dem Tisch gesetzt. No motion in the verb, so we used haben, and therefore no motion in the prepositional phrase, so we used dative. No, you use the accusative because there's motion. So why don't we use sein in the perfect? That's just the way German works. No, it isn't! If the perfect tense is used with sein when there is motion, and two-way prepositions or Wechselpräpositionen are accusative when there is motion, why do you almost always use the accusative case with Wechselpräpositionen when you use haben as your helping verb in the perfect? There are times when the present perfect tense is used with the form of sein, which according to your German teacher means that there is motion, but the two-way preposition in that same sentence uses the dative case because there's no motion. Huh? What? Get ready because I am going to blow your mind. The first problem was cleared up last week. The rule is not motion versus non-motion, but rather transitive versus intransitive. The problem this week is similar. It's not about motion, it's about change of location or lack thereof. Let's take a look at the following examples. Ich bin auf der Autobahn gefahren. I drove on the Autobahn, or interstate or highway. Versus Ich bin auf die Autobahn gefahren. I drove onto the Autobahn, interstate or highway. In the first sentence, we were driving, which is an intransitive verb because we don't have a direct object, so we use sein. But we're not changing location throughout this sentence. I am on the Autobahn at the beginning, and in the end of the sentence, I'm still on the Autobahn. In the second sentence, we use the verb sein because there's still no direct object, but the action of the sentence moves me from not being on the Autobahn to being on the Autobahn. This change of location forces me to use the accusative case. So the question we must ask ourselves is not necessarily directly related to the verb. Our question is whether or not the location described within the prepositional phrase is indicating a change in location or a constant location. Ask not if your verb is motion or non-motion, but if your preposition is expressing a change in location. Ich schwimme in dem Schwimmbecken, or ich schwimme im Schwimmbecken. I am swimming in the swimming pool. In this sentence, the location of the action does not change. If you were to write this sentence with the accusative case, it would mean that you can swim on land and you are swimming into the pool, which is ridiculous unless you're Chuck Norris. Now let's take a look at the commonly used verbs that your teacher probably told you require the use of the accusative or dative case, as the case may be. Pun intended. Your teacher likely gave you examples like this. Ich habe mich auf den Stuhl gesetzt. I sat myself down on the chair. Ich habe auf dem Stuhl gesessen. I sat on the chair. In the first one, I was not sitting, but now I am. The change is indicated in the prepositional phrase with the accusative case. The second sentence shows you that I am already sitting in that position, which means I did not change location, so we use the dative case to indicate that the location does not change throughout the sentence. Hat das Buch in das Regal gestellt. He put the book on the bookshelf. Das Buch hat im Regal gestanden. The book stood on the shelf. Wir haben die Blätter auf den Tisch gelegt. We laid the papers onto the table. Die Blätter haben auf dem Tisch gelegen. The papers lay on the table. Fun fact of the day, the difference between lay and lie and legen and liegen are the exact same difference in English as it is in German. Lay is a transitive verb which requires a direct object. It's the same as legen. Lie is an intransitive verb which will not use a direct object. It's the same as liegen. Aha! I caught you. If intransitive verbs require sein in the perfect and liegen is an intransitive verb as you just said, why doesn't liegen take sein in the perfect? Nope, don't answer that. I know already. It's a non-motion verb, which is why it really needs haben. I was right. Nice try, but no. In northern Germany, where most people consider proper German to come from, they do use haben with liegen, but in southern Germany, Austria and Switzerland, they use sein. The reason textbooks and other resource materials use haben is because of this assumption that northern Germans speak more correctly than their southern counterparts, and also this infestation of the idea that motion versus non-motion is the deciding factor for helping verbs. Long story short, both are correct. Back to the two-way prepositions. You probably understand the general idea of how to use these by now, but let's make things more interesting. Ich habe das Blatt Papier auf den Tisch in dem Wohnzimmer gelegt. I laid the piece of paper onto the table in the living room. In this sentence, we use both the accusative and dative cases with different two-way prepositions. The first one indicates a change of location for the piece of paper, which means that we need the accusative case. But the second one is referring to the location of the table, which is not changing, so we use the dative case. Ich bin mit meinem Hund in meinem Auto nach Chicago gefahren. I drove to Chicago with my dog in my car. Neither the dog nor I are leaving or entering the car during this sentence, which is why we use the dative case with in meinem Auto. The fact that the car is traveling to Chicago is not relevant for the location indicated in the prepositional phrase in meinem Auto. Das Flugzeug ist über die Wolke geflogen. The airplane flew over the cloud. Das Flugzeug ist über der Wolke geflogen. The airplane flew over the cloud. Huh? I like sentences like this because it shows you how precise the German language can be. In the first one, the airplane was at some point not over the cloud. Whether this means it started out over the cloud and ended up not over it, or some other variation thereof, it's not really clear. In the second sentence, the airplane never leaves the position of being over the cloud. Mein Bruder ist in den Bergen gewandert. My brother hiked in the mountains. Mein Bruder ist in die Berge gewandert. My brother hiked into the mountains. In the first one, we use the dative case because there is no change of location. Throughout the entire sentence, my brother is in the mountains. In the second one, he started out not in the mountains and ended in the mountains, which is a change of location, which requires the accusative case. Ich setze mich auf dem Tisch hin, da mein Stuhl schon auf dem Tisch ist. I set myself down on the table because my chair is already on the table. In this sentence, I purposefully confused you. The verb hinsetzen is usually used with two-way prepositions using the accusative case, but that's because the act of setting oneself down is a change of position from not sitting to sitting. In this sentence, however, the entire action of setting oneself down happens on top of the table, as the chair onto which the person is setting themselves is already on the table. Of course, this is an extreme example of how to use the distinction between accusative and dative case, but it might help you to see things like this. So the next time you're trying to figure out if a Wechselpräposition uses accusative or dative, ask yourself if you are trying to express a change in location with that preposition or not. If you are, use accusative. If not, use dative. Yeah, that's what I said! Accusative with motion, dative without. Yeah, but not clearly enough that your students could understand what you were trying to say.
If you want to practice what you've learned here and take it to the next level, click the link in the description and download my Everything Dative bundle, or take it to the next level and buy my book Elementary German with Herr Antrim. Das ist alles für heute. Danke fürs Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!